Hey gang, welcome back. Promised you an easier method to doing these instead of memorizing that clumsy formula, which some kids really like memorizing stuff. So again, in order to do this counterclockwise 90 degrees, you can flip the X and the Y and then change the sign on the Y. You can also physically do this by turning your paper. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have I have an XY coordinate plane here. So you can see it on there. It's a whiteboard. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a pre-image point. And pre-image point, I'm going to put it in the first quadrant, which again is this quadrant up here. So this is my first quadrant. So my pre-image point, I'm going to put it at 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. We'll call it point A. So there's my pre-image point. Again, it's at 3, 2 in the first quadrant. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to physically rotate this 90 degrees. So again, it's got to go counterclockwise against the clock. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin it 90 degrees just like that. Notice that my image now is no longer in the first quadrant. It has changed to the second quadrant. So my image point A prime is now in the second quadrant. So this is no longer A. I'm going to call this A prime because it's after the transformation has taken place. So remember, my pre-image point, let's get a bad glare off the window. My pre-image point was over here at 1, 2, 3, 2. And so I rotated, so here is A, and then I ended up at A prime. So now what's going to happen is you're going to see what we just talked about before. So again, if this was pre-image point 3, 2, look where I end up over here. I'm at -2, up 1, 2, 3. So notice they were switched and the Y changed sign. So again, that's by just physically turning the paper. So looking down here at this next one, I got this 180 degree rotation here at number 2. So remember, 180 degree rotations, those you just change the sign. There's no flipping of X and Y, you're just going to make them opposite. So if I look at, I didn't see these down here. So let's see, if I am at point T is right here. It looks to be at 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So 2, 3 for the pre-image. 2, 3. So my image point again, if I use the pattern is I just don't flipping, just changing sign. So I should end up at -2, -3. And so let's see, -2, -3. 1, 2, 3 is right there. So that's where T prime ends up. Then I can do point E. E looks to be this point right here, which is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2. Again, if I keep them in the same spot and just change their signs, that becomes -5, -2. So -5, -2. So let's see, -1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -2 down here. So that becomes my E prime. P is at what? 1, 2, 3, 4, -1. 4, -1. So again, if I just change the signs, it becomes -4, +1 for P prime. So -1, 2, 3, 4, +1 right there. And then what point did I do? W yet. W sitting at what? 2, 0. So that would just become -2, 0 for W prime. So -2, 0 for the image point W prime. So -2, 0 is right there. So then if I connect those with a straight line, you'll see you're rotated 180 degrees. Something like this. And so you can kind of see it spun 180 degrees. Again, I could do that on a piece of paper as well. Again, if I draw my pre-image at 2, 3, that would be right there. And then I got 5, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2 right there. negative or 4 negative 1, 1, 2, 3, 4 negative 1, and then 2 0 is right here. So you can see this is my pre-image before the rotation. But now if I rotate this 180 degrees, again this would be 90 degrees. This would be 180 degrees, and now I can just read out my new ordered pairs. So again, this is now at negative 2 0. This point here is at negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So by physically turning the paper, I could just see where they are on the coordinate plane and get the new coordinates for the image. So that's just another way of doing it instead of memorizing those patterns. Some kids like to memorize, some kids like to turn their papers. Completely up to you. So again, this wants to go 90 degrees counterclockwise on this image here. So again, I could just spin the piece of paper, or I could use the pattern, whichever one you choose on that one. And then this one you have to figure out what happened. So down here, well, why don't I rotate one more? Do I have time? Yeah, I got time. Alright, so in order to do this, I'm going to have to come up with some ordered pairs for the pre-image. So let's see, V looks to be at 0, 1. 0, comma, 1. So if I go 90 degrees, remember you switch and change the sign of the Y, so V prime becomes negative 1, 0. So that's going to put me at negative 1, 0 right there. So I'll draw a dot there. T prime, the original T or the pre-image point, that's happening at 2, 1. So then if I do the pattern, T prime becomes negative 1, 2. So I'll graph that on there. Negative 1, 2 is right here. Make a dot. And let's see, I gotta do J prime. So J, the pre-image, that's happening at 0, negative 1. 0, negative 1. So then if I switch and change the Y, J prime becomes positive 1, 0. So positive 1, 0 is right there. And then lastly, D is at what? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4, negative 4. So again, if I switch and change the Y, that becomes 4, positive 4. Four positive 4 is 1, 2, 3. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now you can see your rotated image looks like this. So you can see rotated 90 degrees. So again, I could have done that also by finding the image points on a graph and turn the paper, or you could have turned the notes. I can't turn the notes in front of you because of the way we're working this, but again, that's another way of coming up with that image right there. Down here is a rotation has happened. You have to figure out which one it is. Again, you could do this using a test point. So these are the primes here. So this is the image, this is the pre-image. Then I notice V is at what? 2, negative 1. So 2, negative 1. And then if I find V prime, which looks to be about here, I guess it's a Y. It's Y prime. It ends up at 1, positive 1, positive 2. So again, these were switched and the Y changed opposite. This is 90 degrees counterclockwise. This one down here, again, if I find some test points here, I'll use U and U prime. Here's a pre-image point. That's at what? -1, 2, 3, 1. So -3, +1. And then my image point U prime over here happens at 1, 2, 3, or +3, -1. So the 3 and 1 are the same, it's just the opposite sign. And again, that only happens when it's a 180-degree rotation. At 180 degrees, you don't have to give direction because it doesn't matter which way you go. You end up at the same spot. So I'll just leave that at 180 degrees. So down here, it wants you to reflect over y is equal to x and rotate 180 degrees. Now the reason I do this, again, this was reflection, we previously did this, we did this today, is because they're often confused. So if you look at y is equal to x, I have to reflect it over this line. You've done this before, so this is where you count the diagonals. So let's count the diagonals here. So there's a half a diagonal, go a half a diagonal on the other side. Here's 1, 2 diagonals, then 2 diagonals on the other side, put me there. Here I have 1, 2 diagonals, 1, 2 diagonals. So I end up with this image reflected over y is equal to x. Then if I rotate this 180 degrees, again, I'm going to use their ordered pairs to do that and just change the sign of them. So this here is at what, 1, 0. So in order to rotate this 180 degrees, I just changed the sign. So at 1, 0 would become -1, 0. So there's n prime. Z, you're sitting here at 1, 2, 3, -1. So if I change the signs, that becomes -3, +1. So -1, 2, 3, +1. And then this point down here, the pre-image point's at 0, -1, 2, 3, 4. So 0, -4. So 180 degrees means I'm going to change the sign, so that would be 0, +4. So 0, +4 is 1, 2, 3, 4. So I end up with this. And when you're rotating over y is equal to x and rotating at 180 degrees, see how similar they look? So we have to help keep in mind of this. Again, like I showed Joey when I spinned him on the floor, in a rotation, the orientation, you don't get the reverse orientation, but a reflection you will. So again, if I put this, I have I here, I prime, and then what, this was z prime. So there's z prime and this is n prime here. So again, the pre-image was I, N, Z. Here, notice that it goes I, Z, N. So I get this reverse orientation. When it's over here, so again, my I prime was up here now. My N prime is here now. And my Z prime is over here. So this goes I, N, Z. This also goes I, N, Z in the same direction. So you don't get reverse orientation on a rotation like you do on a reflection. So sometimes you're going to get stuck and you're not going to know which one's which. That's when you got to figure out the order of the letters. Am I getting the reverse orientation of the letters? So if you are, it's a reflection. If you're not, it's going to be a rotation. Explain how you can distinguish reflection across 100. Well, that's just what I talked about. You're going to look for that reverse orientation. If there is a reverse orientation, reflection. If there is no reverse orientation, that means it's going to be a rotation. So your homework will be practicing these. You can turn those in and I'll see how you guys are doing on that. Thank you very much and we'll see you soon.